So I think it's time. I think it's time to give the people what they're really here to hear about.
Oh, what would that be?
Our Dancing with the Stars crossover. So everybody, just to remind you all, don't watch Dancing with the Stars, don't know how it's judged, have no idea if you can get eliminated. But our most recent Bachelor, Joey, and our most recent Bachelorette, Jenn, are contestants on Dancing with the Stars. And as it so happens, Amy and I have been amateur ballroom dancers.
Champions, even.
Amateur, yeah, we've won several championships over the years when we competed, not recently. But we are amateur ballroom dancers and have been for 12, 13 years or so. And
trophies over there.
We got trophies. We do have trophies over there. Yeah. So this just felt like, how do we not talk about the crossover? And, in past episodes, we've done this at the top of the episode, but because it's a double header and I actually got 6 dances to talk about this week, I figured we had to save it to the end. Now, I know what you're thinking. 6, double header, 2 times 2 is 4. But things are better in 3. And thus we had to add 1 contestant. And that contestant is Danny Amendola. Why Danny Amendola, do you ask? Because I'm a New England Patriots fan. And because we need someone to make, Jenn and Joey look good. And Danny's doing an awfully good job of making everybody else look good because he is a horrible dancer. Let's just put that out there. Okay, so let's just get into some first initial comments. This week, we got 2 paso dobles. Paso doble is a very challenging dance. It's also a very uncommon dance. You and I have only danced this, I think, 1 time in all the times that we've been dancing. It's actually a dance of Spanish origin, unless you're French. The French people claim that they actually invented it, but I think it's a little dubious. The theme of this dance is actually that of a matador and a bull, and it actually represents the bullfighting in Spanish culture. And so it's actually really interesting that we see 2 of these in 1 week back to back, just because it is such an uncommon dance and it is such a challenging dance. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing I want to know.
And the matador, that role is usually of the female,
correct,
and the bull is usually the male.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the costume designs, so Jenn does one, and the other one who does it is Whitney. So if you actually look at the costume designs, what are both of the women wearing? They're actually wearing caped skirts, where it's effectively a skirt that is only in the back, and it actually looks like a cape. Just instead of it being around your shoulders, it's around your waist.
Yeah.
And that is to symbolize the matador's cape when she's dancing. And this is like a really interesting. So when I heard Paso Doble, first thing I thought was, oh, hot damn. Good luck with that. And the second thing I thought of, I wanted to feel the thematics of this. I really wanted to see, did they encapsulate that feeling of the back and forth and the tension and the combativeness and the chase of it all. So that's the first thing I was really interested to see. Second thing is that since it's a double header, I was expecting that the dances themselves would be less technical because they have basically half the time they have to prepare.
Well, they had 2 weeks. So they didn't perform last week, but they had to prepare 2 dances. So I still think it's quite a challenge.
Sure, yeah.
And then to perform back-to-back nights, to a live audience, like that's all I kept thinking about is like, God, like that is hard.
Very hard. And what I want to roll into is I want to give, we'll start with Jenn. I want to give her the accolades first because she does a paso doble, which we've already talked about is a very challenging dance. What is her second dance? Viennese waltz, the hardest of the smooth. So ballroom dance is roughly segregated into what we call smooth and rhythm, right? Or rhythm is oftentimes called Latin, but it's more than just the Latin dances. And there are, 4 or 5 core dances in rhythm and smooth. And then there's a bunch of like kind of other dances that are less common. Paso doble is in the less common dances. Viennese waltz is basically the most challenging and most technical within the core smooth dances.
Right. You don't even get to learn Viennese waltz until you've graduated
the other 3 dances
to a certain level.
Yeah. It's that challenging. So for her to come out here and do a paso doble and a Viennese waltz, that alone took unbelievable, stones to do that. And actually, my first question is, what does that say about her pro's opinion of her ability to execute? Because there's no way the pro is selecting these dances unless he has supreme confidence in her or supreme arrogance in himself.
Listen, the thing that I like about Jenn is she's a girl that's down for anything.
Yeah.
And I could see her say like, fuck yeah, this is a challenge. I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
And I don't think she shies away from much.
Mhm.
And so I think there's a part of like, I imagine her pro like warned her, like these two things are going to be hard. And I can imagine there's an element of Jenn that's like, well, then I definitely want to do it.
Mhm. Yep.
And you know, Jenn feels like she has something to prove right now.
Mhm.
And so I think that might, like, and I relate to Jenn on that. I relate to Jenn a lot. I said that throughout her whole season. But like when someone gives me an idea that I can't do something, it's like, well, I am gonna like kill it then.
Mhm.
And so I could see that being an element. But I think again, Jenn is just down for anything.
Yep. So let's get into the actual dances themselves. We'll start off with the Paso Doble. The dance itself, what I'll say, Jenn in general has really shined on the performative side of it. She's been a little bit weaker on the technical side.
Right.
And I think this once again demonstrated, you know, where her strengths and weaknesses lied. I thought it was very strong performatively. It was, you know, interesting to watch. She mostly nailed her timing. I thought the costume, you know, specifically for the Paso Doble itself was a good choice. I thought that the routine itself embodied the actual dance, the theme of the dance itself.
She used her costume well.
She used
like the choreography with her costume was really, really good.
Yep. Those
and some physically challenging moves.
Oh yeah, the knee drag like that. I was hurting watching that. And she executed fairly well.
Yeah.
All around, I thought this was a pretty strong performance. Again, you know, it's a challenging dance. It's a very stochastic dance, which is even more, or you know, it's got that staccato to it. And so I thought strong performance. Then we go over to the Viennese waltz.
Gorgeous dress.
Interesting you say that. I agree, gorgeous dress. Last week I had said that I thought it was very smart in her tango routine that they put her in a long non-sheer dress because it covered up a lot of the flaws that she was going to have in the lower half execution of the tango.
Right, so you basically need to be like both.
It's like pigeon, like pigeon, a little bit more pigeon footed and stuff like that. Well, one of the things about Viennese waltz is it is very fast and very challenging.
Yeah,
and
you could see her feet were
atrocious. It wasn't just her. It was her feet, yeah, but it was her knees were wrong, and because the knees were wrong, it flowed into bad feet. And by having her in a see-through dress, it exposed all of that. So I really think that this was a misplay. And a part of it was almost like she's like, oh, you know, I listened to that. I hear that Chris guy commenting on that podcast saying that I'm covering up my weaknesses. Well, fuck that guy. I'm going to wear a sheer dress and prove to him wrong. And she did not prove me wrong. I think she would have been better served by not having a sheer dress.
But listen, this is a dance. If you don't know what you're looking for, she did a beautiful.
Sure,
it was a beautiful. I loved the song choice. I thought again evocative in that way. I mean, I
great
thought the
performance was fantastic again. Yeah,
her flexibility. She does in both dances like some beautiful kicks, like big round kicks, and I think like it was beautiful to see. She's light on her feet. Like she doesn't look like she's very heavy on her feet. And when we're saying like her knees are wrong, her feet are wrong, what I was looking at is like you want to have your feet like very close together when they cross or just close in general.
She was shorting her basic step.
Yeah.
So in Viennese waltz, the constant rotation as you're moving down, that's actually your basic step. That's why it's so challenging. Most other dances, your basic step is you're sort of in place or maybe making a slow rotation. This is a fast rotation straight down the dance floor. And there's a lot of feet crossing and there's a lot of rotational torque that happens. And she was shorting all of those steps and there wasn't enough rotation.
Yeah.
And she wasn't if you think of like tetherball, you're rotating and then the next person becomes a pivot point and then they rotate around the pivot point. And they were not getting that pivot point rotation. They weren't resetting. And all of that meant that the steps were wrong. And they was sort of like doing one of these things. Instead of going straight down, they were sort of drifting off.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't know what you're looking for, it was a beautiful routine.
Yeah, she did a good job.
Again, high on the performance side. Technical side, again, not super high and wasn't great execution of the technical stuff. But overall, I thought it was a strong performance. And each week, I thought she did mediocre the first week. I thought she was solid last week. And this week I thought was her best performance yet. She's definitely growing pretty quickly, and improving pretty fast. So shall we go to Joey?
Sure.
All right. So Joey's tango. What did you think of this?
I thought this was an incredible performance.
Interesting. Okay.
I thought he did a really good job. His performance is something that I did not expect. In terms of like really getting into character, like facial expressions, like all of that stuff. I wasn't expecting to see that from him, but I thought this was a good performance, and it was the highest scoring performance of the night, by the way.
Interesting. So I agree with everything you said, as long as you're not talking about this specific dance. This dance, first off, I actually hated both of his songs this week.
I agree. I didn't love the song choice.
I did not like his song choice. Either one of them, Shout and the Hurricane. Both of them are just songs that I've heard to death, and I'm done with them. That being said, also, it is a legit tango, but I would have never in a million years thought to dance tango to this song. But that aside, it felt to me like he was in his head the entire time. He has been a great performer. When we see his jive this week, was a great performance. When we look at his rumba last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, that was a great performance. This felt like he was being very calculated. It felt to me like he was kind of in his head, almost counting things off. This was the routine to me where he felt the most unsure of his 4 routines that I've seen to date. That being said, it was a solid performance. Like, he hit his steps. He was, for the most part, on time. The technical side of things was fairly strong, given it was a double week. But I did think of the 4 performances I've seen from him, it was the weakest performance.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm allowed to disagree with the judges.
What do they know?
What do they know? I dance in professional, amateur competitions. A pro-am, if you will.
We should insert the photo of us at
Constitution?
Yeah.
Or me and Ricardo in our suits. Yeah, if I can find him. Yeah. Do I have anything else? Oh, okay. All right. So jive. So jive, I agree with everything you just got done saying. Strong performance in terms of, it was just an exciting performance. I was bagging on Amendola a couple weeks ago when he did his jive. I was basically saying that, 1, I don't really like the jive. 2, he didn't actually even do a jive, really. He did this fusion dance. And at 3, it wasn't well executed. This is what a jive is supposed to be. This was a true jive. Granted, it was to a crappy song, but it was exciting, entertaining, a nice little backflip up in there. Like the whole thing just worked. And it was a crowd pleaser. And I think it demonstrated some skills, some timing skills. There was some good separation. All around, I thought it was a strong, solid performance. Even if I'm not a fan of the jive or the song, and that tells you something. I should be biased against this performance because I don't like the song and I don't like the dance.
Yeah, Shout makes me want to dance every time I hear it. I was having a really hard time like counting the steps, the timing. Yeah. Thank you. The jive timing with that dance, and I was like, it feels off to me. Like it doesn't feel like it's completely synced up in the way that I would understand. But I thought, he, again, great performance. I think he and his partner are really compatible. They clearly trust each other. And when we get to Danny, that will be a thing that I won't say. But I thought this was a fun performance for sure. He's doing great, better than I expected for sure.
Yeah, I'm only watching these 3 competitors, but he's clearly far and away the best of the 3 overall. It's not particularly close. Jenn has
I don't know
moments
where he's stacking up against like some of the others. I have no idea.
Yeah. Jenn has moments where she approaches Joey in individual dances, but on the whole, Joey is crushing both Jenn and Danny, and it's not particularly close in my mind. All right, anything else on Joey, or should we go on to Danny?
Let's go to Danny.
Danny.
He's got great abs.
Oh my God. This me saying Danny is a callback to Jenn's season of The Bachelor, by the way. Okay. Danny, you are a multiple time Super Bowl winning wide receiver for the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots, during the time that you went to the Super Bowl, was one of the most finesse offenses in the league. How is it that you have no finesse, zero finesse, none? Grace, zero. This guy,
heavy-footed.
He's just clunky. It's like bull in a china shop.
You refer to Joan and Chalk as wooden. This is wooden.
It's just so stiff. It's like, dude, like 2 yards and pivot, 3 yards and cross. Like let's get Bill Belichick up in there and let's get him coaching you where you need to be, because the grace and finesse you had on the football field, we are not seeing it on the dance floor, and that is shocking to me. In totality, I can summarize his current experience on this show as he's trying a lot of things, but every single thing he is trying to do, somebody else has done and has done it better. The backflip, Joey just did a better backflip. The double leg kick jumping over his pro, Joey did that better too. The jive, we've seen better jives. Tango, we've seen better tangos.
Removing the shirt.
The shirt, that was rough. Oh boy. And let me tell you something, I am sympathetic to that, because we have had routines where something gets ripped off during the routine. It's always modest and appropriate. It's for effect. There's always something on underneath there. Don't get any ideas down there. But we've had routines where, you do some fancy reveal or something like that. And it is a difficult execution, but it's one of those things where practice, understand. And the way he got caught in his own jacket was, again, it's like the worst nightmare, because I've been in spots like that where I'm like, this would be the worst thing, would be caught in my clothing article or whatever. We did that routine that time where we ripped the red thing off, and during the actual performance, I threw it half the distance I normally throw it. And I was actually concerned that we were going to step on that during the performance. So these are all real considerations that you have to do in dancing. But it was rough to watch. His timing was atrocious in both dances. At this point, it doesn't even matter what dance we're talking about. His timing was just atrocious everywhere. Whitney's her name. Whitney was back leading the crap out of him everywhere.
She's doing a lot of work.
She is doing a lot of work. So no grace, bad timing, just no performative aspect, wooden as can be. Everything he's trying to do, somebody else has already done better. It's just, it's bad everywhere. So he also did a paso doble. I wrote down, Whitney really dragged him through that routine. And that's, and timing was rough. You didn't get the sense that you don't want to be too on the nose with the theme, right? He doesn't need to come in dressed like a bull, right? But I still want to at least have a nod, a feel to the theme, right? What is the bullfighting concept about? It's about the tension and sort of the conflict, and it's about the chase and the dexterity and the deftness of avoiding the altercation, and it's just that's what it's about. And there was just none of that in this routine. Nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. That didn't come through at all. All I kept thinking, and I said this to you, is gosh, I wonder how often these pros, especially the women, get hurt because of the way their arms get wrenched. You wrench my shoulder often, in certain dances, just in terms of your lead, it's a little too heavy handed.
I'm an aggressive lead at times. I'm sorry.
And
I'm trying to be better.
I mean, but I think when you're newer at dancing, not that you
far more prone to it. Yeah.
Because that's how you think you need to lead someone. And there were some movements where I was like, oh gosh, I hope Whitney's okay.
We have a dance instructor. He's a former Mambo world champion, Ricardo. Shout out Ricardo. And his lead is
so light,
magical.
Yeah.
He can dance with basically any woman of any skill level, and literally with one finger and almost no pressure will just put her, he understands where her weight is, where her momentum is going, to such a masterful level that with one finger and almost no pressure whatsoever, he can move and get his follow to do whatever, turn in any direction, move in any direction, do any sort of a step that she's never done before. That is when you've mastered leading, right? I am nowhere near that level. I
imagine all of the male pros have that.
Oh, I'm sure they do. Yeah. But then you have situations where when you have Joey or Danny where they're the leads.
Yeah, but I wonder how much they really are. Like and I think like all of our instructors have always been critical of Dancing with the Stars because they're not really dancing.
Yeah.
They're just learning a routine. And if they're learning a routine, there isn't as much of a need to have a lead and a follow because
you're both kind of doing your own thing and you just happen to be doing it.
Right. It's not true ballroom.
Yeah.
In that way. But anyway.
All right. And we move on to the last dance, which is Danny's Foxtrot. So just for disclaimers, Foxtrot is my least favorite of the core smooth dances. I got one really positive comment about this, and that was I love the costumes.
I was going to say, I'm sure you loved the color that they were wearing.
Yep. I love the costumes. Outside of that, first off, this was not a Foxtrot. This was a Hustle. And they probably would have been better served because Hustle is a much more forgiving and a much easier dance. And Danny was just not up to doing this Foxtrot. Again, timing issues everywhere, but it was a fun routine. And I do think that of the 4 routines I've seen him do, this was the one that was like the most performatively exciting and the most interesting. But I just think he's so far behind the other 2 that it doesn't matter.
I mean, again, it's not a competition of just these 3. So I don't know where he stacks up with anybody else. And I didn't truthfully, I had it queued up. I just ran out of time to watch it. So I can't weigh in.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's time to get out of here.
Is it?
Yeah.